I'm going to teach you how to play Havoc Demon Hunter in a digestible and beginner-friendly format for Season 4 of Dragonflight in both Mythic Plus and raiding settings. Starting with the stat priority, I of course always recommend that you try and get a higher and higher eye level of gear before worrying too much about your secondary stats. Now, if you would like to delve a little bit deeper into those stats, however, this is the general priority that I do recommend. With that being said, it isn't one size fits all, and if you know how, you should be simulating your character to see which piece of gear is best. If you don't know what that means, don't worry, just go for the highest eye level and you'll be absolutely fine. For the talent trees, this on the left is for raiding, and the one on the right is for Mythic Plus and more of an area of effect, or AoE build. There is import strings in the description, and I won't be going through every individual talent, but don't worry, we're going to cover off all of the important ones. But before we do that, let's look at the important cooldowns and utilities we have in our spellbook. First one being Metamorphosis, does AoE damage, and this is actually going to enhance some of your other abilities. Just touching on it now, and we're going to go into it deeper later in the video. Regarding our utility spells, we have quite a few, and these are some of the most important ones. Disrupt, being number 1 on our list, is our kick, otherwise known as our interrupt, and is used to interrupt our enemy's spellcasting, which is really important. The next one we have is glide. Now, if you're not aware, demon hunters can actually double jump, and we can double jump and then use glide to glide slowly down through the air with our demon wings. Imprison is a fantastic incapacitate you can do, incapacitating and imprisoning the enemy for 1 whole minute. And lastly, Vengeful Retreat. This spell, does actually take its place within our rotation at some point. However, it's also useful for us to vault out of danger when we need to. And now that we're in game, let's have a look at how we're going to put it all together. Now, excluding this big action bar, of course, in the middle of my screen, this is usually how I have my UI. And if you do like it, it's very minimal, generally speaking, then you can get this by joining my Patreon in the description below. You will also get access to a lot of written guides by me in there and other resources such as spreadsheets for WoW and behind the scenes content, including a VIP channel in the Discord where you can ask me any questions at all you may have about your specialization, whether that is Havoc or others. And one other thing on my UI is this here. This is a weak aura. It's the Demon Hunter weak aura by Luxfoss, and this shows all of your buffs, resources, and cooldowns all in one central place in your screen so that you're not looking all around for it and can concentrate more on the battle at hand. The build we're going for here is known as the low mover build and generally focuses on not doing an insane amount of movement, unlike the other builds. One thing I will say is there is a lot of different abilities in this rotation, and it isn't the simplest out of all melee specs you can do. So going from left to right is our general priority of spells here. And number 1 is going to be our Vengeful Retreat, removing all snares and vaulting away, nearby enemies taking 500 physical damage. And we only want to use this as our number 1 priority if our eye beam is on a 15-second or greater cooldown. This is our eye beam here, as you can see. The next one we're going to cast, pretty much on cooldown, is the Hunt. As you can see, we're going to charge to our target, striking them for X amount of chaos damage, rooting them in place for 1.5 seconds, and inflicting X amount of chaos damage over 6 seconds to up to 5 enemies in our path. This goes very well with our Vengeful Retreat, where we can retreat away and then charge in with the Hunt. After that, we're going to use our Immolation Aura, engulfing ourselves in flames, instantly causing chaos damage to enemies within 8 yards, and radiating out chaos damage over 10 seconds. And this is going to generate 60 Fury over 10 seconds. Fury, if you're wondering, is this main resource we have here. So we're going to have some Fury generators and some spenders. The next one we have is Blade Dance, otherwise known as Death Sweep. And if you're wondering why is it also called Death Sweep, well, that's because when we go into Metamorphosis, you can see here that some of our abilities, namely this one here and this one, Annihilation, are actually changed. So this is actually a 2-in-1. And at this point, we're going to use our Death Sweep as our next priority, striking a primary target for chaos damage and 5 nearby enemies for physical damage, dealing reduced damage beyond 5 targets. And you can see then after we come out of Metamorphosis, it goes back into Blade Dance. Then we're going to use our I-Beam, blasting all enemies in front of you for up to X amount of chaos damage over 1.6 seconds, dealing reduced damage again beyond 5 targets. When the I-Beam finishes fully channeling, your haste is increased by an additional 10% for 10 seconds. Now, one thing I want to mention here is that this is the single target and raid build, but you will notice a lot of these abilities will also cleave. This isn't the optimal AoE build, and I will be showing you a different one later for Mythic Plus, but if you are finding this rotation already complex and you want to use it for single target and AoE as a beginner, that is fine because of how much cleave it does. I don't want you guys to get overwhelmed if you are new to the spec, because it is a really fun and unique one. After that, we have our Chaos Strike, slicing your target for X amount of chaos damage. Chaos Strike has a 26% chance to refund 20 Fury. This one costs 40 Fury. I-Beam costs 30. Blade Dance costs 35. Then we have our Metamorphosis, leaping into the air and landing an explosive force, dealing X amount of damage to enemies within 8 yards and stunning them. Upon landing, you're transformed into a hellish demon for 20 seconds, greatly empowering your Chaos Strike and Blade Dance abilities and gaining some haste and leech. And we saw there before that Chaos Strike and Blade Dance are both going to be enhanced versions of themselves. We're specifically going to use Metamorphosis at this point if our I-Beam is on cooldown. Don't forget that I-Beam is going to increase your haste for 10 seconds after, and you're also going to get 20% haste after using your Metamorphosis. After that, we're going to use our Fell Blade, charging to our target and doing damage. Demon Blades have a chance to reset the cooldown of Fell Blade. Now, one thing to note on here is that you'll see it's going to generate 40 Fury, and that our cap on Fury is 120. Therefore, you only want to use Fell Blade if you are at or under 80 Fury. Otherwise, you will overcap Fury, and therefore you'll be wasting some. Then we're going to use our Throw Glaive, throwing a demonic glaive at the target, dealing damage, and the glaive can ricochet to 2 additional enemies. Pretty much just using that on cooldown at this point in the priority list. Again, if we're under 90 Fury, because this one generates 30, and therefore we don't want to overcap, we can use our Sigil of Flame, placing a Sigil of Flame at the target location that activates after a second, dealing chaos damage and an additional X amount of chaos damage over 8 seconds to all enemies afflicted. And then lastly, if we've got nothing else to press, we're going to use our Fell Rush, rushing forward, incinerating anything in our path. So, although there is a lot of abilities here, it is quite a straightforward priority of just use it left to right. One thing to note is this talent here, Chaotic Transformation. When you activate your Metamorphosis, the cooldowns of Blade Dance and I-Beam are immediately reset. There's a few other talents here regarding your demon form I want to mention. We have the Inner Demon. Entering demon form causes your next Chaos Strike to unleash your inner demon, causing it to crash into your target and deal X amount of chaos damage to all nearby enemies, dealing reduced damage beyond 5 targets. And that is your one here, Chaos Strike. And remember, that's after you go into your demon form with Metamorphosis. And then we have Shattered Destiny. The duration of your active demon form is extended by 0.1 second per 12 Fury spent. So the more Fury we're spending when we're in demon form, the longer we're actually going to be in there. And of course, in demon form, we're going to be a lot stronger and our abilities will be enhanced, and that is when we're going to want to be pumping out our damage, of course. So spending more Fury is going to have a kind of symbiotic relationship with the demon form for that purpose. And one last one I want to mention is Blind Fury. I-Beam generates 20 Fury every second, and its damage and duration are increased. So just be aware that that is going to be generating that as well. So to recap then, we can go in with our Vengeful Retreat and then use the Hunt to basically go back into our target, in and out, using our Immolation Aura, using our Blade Dance, both of these on cooldown, as well as our I-Beam to get that extra haste. And you can see here that sometimes you are going to be going into demon form. This is with your extra haste, etc. remember. Then we've got our Chaos Strike, which we can use to spend Fury. We've got our Metamorphosis, of course, crashing in and going into our demon form for a while. Fell Blade, which we can use again, generating 40 Fury. Don't use this if you're over 80 Fury. We can use both of our Throw Glaives. There is a reason as well. Serrated Glaive, enemies hit by Chaos Strike or Throw Glaive take 15% increased damage from Chaos Strike and Throw Glaive. And therefore, after we use our Chaos Strike and then using our Throw Glaive, it is going to actually increase the damage that those enemies take from those spells. And using our Sigil of Flame and then our Fell Rush. I know it seems like a lot of buttons, but it really is quite straightforward in regards to kind of what we're pressing in what order. And a lot of these, as I said before, do actually cleave, meaning that you can use this same build if you would like to use it in Mythic Plus. One thing to mention is the actual set bonuses from this tier. your Blade Dance and your Annihilation, sorry, Blade Dance and Death Sweep, should I say, which is the enhanced version of Blade Dance. So Blade Dance and the same spell when you're in Metamorphosis is actually automatically going to throw your Throw Glaive, but only if it is off cooldown. And has a 50% chance per slash of that to actually cast an additional Throw Glaive for free. And then what the 4 set does is that when you use your Throw Glaive, it's going to reduce the remaining cooldown on the hunt by 2 seconds each time. And then the damage over time on the hunt is also increased. So just be aware of keeping that Throw Glaive off cooldown when you are using your Blade Dance or Blade Sweep, which is when it's buffed by Metamorphosis, and also that your hunt will be coming off cooldown a lot quicker the more Throw Glaives that we actually get out. If we then move over to the Mythic Plus build, you can see there's a few talents changing here, but the overall rotation won't change too much if you do want to go with it. And yet again, like I said, if you just want to go for the basics and you just want to do one build, that one does cleave, so you can use it for both if you'd like, if you're only doing low difficulty content. We've got a few down here. Immolation Aura's damage is increased each time it deals damage. Of course, that's the one that's pulsing out chaos damage. Demon Blades and Throw Glaive leave open wounds on your enemies, dealing damage over 15 seconds and increasing damage again from your Immolation Aura. And each time Immolation Aura deals damage, 30% of the damage dealt by up to 3 critical strikes is gathered as Rage Fire. When the aura expires, you explode, dealing all that Rage Fire to nearby enemies. And we also gain this spell and this spell. First one is Essence Break on a 40-second cooldown where you slash all enemies in front of you for damage and increasing your damage from Chaos Strike and Blade Dance to deal to them for 80% for 4 seconds. And this one here, Glaive Tempest, launched 2 demonic glaives in a whirlwind of energy, causing damage over 3 seconds to all nearby enemies. So what we're really changing is really just kind of the order. Of course, with all those extra talents for Immolation Aura, you guessed it, Immolation Aura is going to be our top priority. Then we're just going to move to Vengeful Retreat and the Hunt, but after that we're putting in Essence Break, of course, coning out damage to enemies in front of us. So we're just kind of moving a few around and adding a few more spells in as well, actually. Then we have Metamorphosis, then it's Blade Dance, then we're going to use our Glaive Tempest, then I-Beam, then Blade Dance again. The reason this is here and here, this one is for the empowered one, this one is for the standard one. So only use it here if you have the one for Metamorphosis. So basically, if you have the Death Sweep one, use it here. If you're not in Metamorphosis, then use the normal one here. And then after that, it's the Sigil of Flame, Annihilation, etc., Fell Blade, then Throw Glaive, then the non-enhanced version. Again, here, it's the same when we're using these ones with Blade Dance. You actually want to use your Chaos Strike and Annihilation. Enhanced one here, non-enhanced there. Fell Blade, and then Throw Glaive, and then Chaos Strike. And again, if you've got nothing to press, Fell Rush. And really, you're just doing it in that order. For the beginning rotation, that is really it. But as you can see, it is quite a lot more buttons in the Mythic Plus build. And like I said, if you just want to go for the raiding one, it'll be fine in Mythic Plus at lower levels. It does a lot of cleave damage. But that is it, guys. That is how you're going to play Havoc Demon Hunter in Season 4 of Dragonflight. If you did enjoy this video and want to look at other specs, I have done every single spec for Season 4, and you can click this playlist to see them in action. I'm also doing PvP guides and dungeon guides, so check out my channel and the playlists on there for those as well. And if you have any questions around the spec, do join my Discord, where we have a really friendly community that are there to help.